Hey everyone, MiltyMan234 here with another Archie Sonic review. Today we'll be looking at issue 17 that was released on September of 1994. And apparently Sonic and the gang have walked onto the set of King Kong. This will all be explained in the first story, Guerrilla Warfare, or The Apes of Wrath, or some pun on the word monkey. It opens up with Robotnik and his army out in the middle of a jungle, hunting, and you'd think that he's hunting the hedgehog, but it turns out he's hunting game. Big game. The reason Robotnik has ended up on this island is that he's in search of a long-lost badnik that he made years ago. He recalls when he built the monstrosity and gave him the spark of life. Unfortunately, he didn't give him a normal brain and he ran off to parts unknown. After years of searching, he has found some clues within the pages of screenshots from the island. Eventually, they hear the sound of a loud gong, and Robotnik recognizes it as he looks up to see his long-lost creation, King Gong. Yeah, King Gong. Think of him as like Mecha King Kong, but with a giant clock in his stomach. So in order to tame this metallic beast, his SWAT bots haul in a giant load of bananas to keep him calm. That does make me wonder about the bananas. Are they real or are they just made of metal? Because if they are real, then wouldn't the mushed up bananas clog up his cogs? Or does he have a giant blender for his stomach? Who knows? Meanwhile, we see that Sonic and the gang are off for a picnic. Since Robotnik hasn't messed with them for a while, they decide to take it easy. But little do they know that Robotnik is back in Robotropolis with King Gong, feeding him thousands of bananas. After the Gourmet Fest, he then gives him instructions to destroy Sonic and the Freedom Fighters, as well as destroying another wall in the progress. So we cut back to the Freedom Fighters trembling in fear as they see King Gong looming over them as he attempts to crush them. As Sally's the only one who has any guts to stand up against this beast, she gives him a good lecture, but it doesn't help much as it only sparks his interest in her. So he takes Sally with him while knocking out Sonic with the flick of his finger. After that small setback, Sonic, Tails, and Antoine head for the tornado to chase after King Gong. We then find out that King Gong has dragged Sally onto the top of the Transmobius Trade Center just to see the sunset. How lovely. But this romantic scene ain't gonna swoo her because in comes Sonic ready to attack the ape with a Sonic Spin. But it's proven to be useless as he is too strong to take down with a Sonic Spin. So, with the help of the others, he sends Tails to get Sally, and Sonic shoots the gorilla with a super soaker full of slippery goop, making King Gong lose his grip and sending him falling to his doom. So the day is saved as the Freedom Fighters head back home, leaving Robotnik behind to mourn the loss of his long-lost creation. They just don't make giant monster knockoffs like they used to. In the second story, First Star I See Tonight, or Princess Sally's Crusade Part 1, we see Sally out in the middle of the night, lamenting about if she'll ever find the answers that she's looking for, like if they'll ever defeat Robotnik, and if Sonic really does love her. She thinks about the old days, a time when she was young and hanging out with her friends and her father, a time when Mobo— Oh my god, Sally's wearing pants ruined forever. Oh no, this again? Yes, clothes are still poisonous for Sally. It has no effect on the character's personality. Were you even listening to what I said last time? Your opinions are invalid because you suck, and Sega made a law that forbids Sally from wearing any clothes, see? Ah, this is rubbish. And how would you know, me? Well, it's pretty obvious that your name is on this so-called law. Well, that's because, I still hate you, me. Right then. As I was saying, Sally was remembering the good old days of Mobotropolis when it was a peaceful time, until Robotnik conquered it and built Robotropolis, sending her father to who knows where, roboticizing many civilians, and only a handful of Mobians are left fighting for freedom. While she remembers these times, a loud crash startles her. Luckily, the Freedom Fighters heard it too, as they head over to where it came from. They discover that it was caused by a strange glowing sphere that crashed to the ground, and nobody knows what it is. Sally has a feeling this could help them in the battle against Robotnik. So that's issue 17. The first story is just blah. That's the best way I can describe it. It's just blah. It's basically nothing but a cheap parody off of King Kong, with a whole bunch of gorilla monkey gag puns thrown in. Even the credits can't escape its cheesiness. Well, there's an obvious answer for why this story sucks. Blame it on contenders. However, the issue does sort of make up for it with the second story, which is actually pretty good. We actually get to have a moment with Sally and how her life has been in the old days and what's happening now, with no cheesy filters thrown in. This is probably the first time we mainly focus on a character's backstory and feelings that isn't Sonic. Since you already heard me ramble about the fan base raging at the new design with the pants and all that jazz in the future, here's something I forgot to add in. Cheek fuzz. Yeah, they're gonna be round instead of fuzzy, which is pretty minor, yet the fan brats are already flying off the handlebars over this small change in detail, because the Sonic fan base is that sensitive. She had round cheeks back then in the comics, nobody cared about that. Remember when Crash Bandicoot used to have orange fur on his stomach in most of the games? And then in Nitro Kart from then on, they changed the color to match his muzzle? Yeah, nobody went batshit crazy with that small change of detail. But anyway, as for issue 17, I say just read the second story. Now let's move on to issue 18 that was released in October of 1994. And it looks like Sonic and Sally are gonna get hitched while Tails becomes the hero during all of this. And all the sensitive Sonic fangirls screamed in anger that day. In the first story, Wedding Bell Blues, Sonic and the gang are getting the old barn ready for the wedding, as you can already tell who's getting hitched from the cover. While this is going on, a Motobug is spying on them and rushes to Robotropolis to give Crabmeat the news to give to Robotnik. He doesn't believe this at first and demands some more evidence, and so he sends a Batbrain to spy on them to see if it really is true. And he manages to see a glimpse of Sonic and Sally rehearsing their lines for the wedding, and then Batman shows up to the party. Oh wait, that was Batbrain. Never mind. So, after a cheesy military speech by Robotnik giving his Batniks the orders on what they're gonna do, they prepare themselves for the attack. And by the looks of it, he's gonna need more nuts and bolts to keep these robots intact to make it to the barn. And so we open up with the next scene, which already Sonic fangirls would go into a tizzy about. But then here comes the army, SWAT bots charging down the entrances, while Snively and the Batniks are waiting for Robotnik's orders when he arrives. So before you can say, "Objection!" Sonic jumps into action by defeating the SWAT bots before anyone gets hurt. And as Robotnik arrives to see his destroyed robots, he then gets knocked out after Sally drops the curtains on him as the crowd cheers him on. It's later revealed that the wedding was just an actual play performance, since Robotnik's rules are mainly no singing, no laughing, and so on, but never said anything about musical theater. So the day is saved once again. While they clean up the place, Sally sarcastically says that it's still a perfect place for their wedding. After actually believing this, Sonic runs off saying that he has nothing against marriage. She needs to catch him since he is a great catch after all.
Boo!
In the second story, In the Still of the Night, or Princess Sally's Crusade Part 2, Rotor and the others are having a hard time trying to crack open the mysterious sphere that they found in the last issue. While this is going on, Rosie, Sally's aunt, informs Sally about some serious news as she runs off to see her teacher, Julia. It turns out that she is dying from, I don't know, some kind of disease, as she uses what's left of her time to recall on how she was her student, learning the ways of being a princess and a legit fighter. She remembers the days and how she told her about the ceremonial acorn that has been in her family for generations, and she will learn the secrets of it when she is ready, and fast enough to snatch it from her hand. She knows that she has grown over the years, and wants to know if she can snatch the acorn from her hand one last time, which Sally doesn't do that. She kicks it with her knee and then snatches it. Well, I guess that counts because Julia is pleased by her efforts. And so, with her last breath, she bids Sally farewell, and Sally becomes so depressed that she decides to ram her face into the bedpost for no reason. So she decides to be alone for a while outside, and Sonic comes in to see if she's alright, and tells her that even though what has passed is past, there are many tomorrows ahead. So that was issue 18. The first story does a good job in fooling the reader on thinking that Sonic and Sally are gonna get married. Coloring is okay, writing is less cheesier than last time, and it's just okay, not much to say. I will say there is a little bit of a continuity error because there's a scene where Sally is wearing a vest, and at this point she's not supposed to be wearing a vest at that time. But I might be just nitpicking on the subject. I was also disappointed that we didn't see Tails do anything. On the front cover, we saw him punch Robotnik in the face and acting like he's gonna be the hero, but in the story, there's none of that. The cover lied to me! The second story is another section focusing on Sally and her history, where we learn about how she became a leader and a fighter with her lessons with Julia. My one complaint about the story is Julia herself. She's dying, yet we don't know what she's dying of. Old age, cancer, some incurable disease, intoxicated by Robotnik's pollutions, I don't know. And we are just introduced to the character who dies off pretty quickly, which makes you wonder where has she been during these times and why she was never mentioned. It's like in Friendship is Magic at the end of Season 2, where we found out, oh hey, Twilight has a brother who happens to be Captain of the Royal Guards at Canterlot. No idea why we never saw him or mentioned him during the times the main six went to Canterlot a few times. I guess you could say they didn't plan this ahead of time for the character or something, but I don't know, it just makes the character feel weak. I actually like the ending with Sonic and Sally. Yeah, it's short, but this is probably the first time we see Sonic taking this situation more serious, and shows that he actually does care for Sally. And that's what I call character development. As you may have noticed, these issues tend to go back and forth with the style of the story, from the cheesy, corny humor similar to Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic Colors, to a more serious tone similar to Sonic Sat AM. Eventually, the series will lean more towards Sat AM, and eventually become its own series in the future. I would say the second story is better, but I think they both share the same conclusion. Just skip the first story and read the second story. And the same goes for issue 242, unless you want to read a lousy attempt of an advertisement for Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. Well, that wraps up another Archie Sonic review. So this is Melting Man 234 signing out.